would be needing and wanting to recruit someone to look after finance in that way, i.e. as a planned operation, working with the board. Part-time kind of implies often somebody who's winding down. People do part-time work because they're winding down. And there's not a new term, but it's relatively new. I think lots of people I come across are now doing interim. And I must say finance, along with HR, is one of the very common interim roles that people play. And do you do interim as opposed to part-time? What would you
It's a good question, Mike. There's actually a key difference between interim and part-time. And the short answer is no, we don't do interim. Right. The way to think of interim finance directors is they're typically project-based, in that they're brought in to solve a problem, that there's typically a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then they move on.
Right.
We're totally different. We prefer to work with the company. We're more of a partnership with the company, and therefore typically we're working on the regular company matters. Of course, as David said earlier, there'll be certain instances when we come into a new client that there may be a specific project that needs to be sorted out first, but what we won't be doing is intending to spend typically, for example, on an interim assignment, they would be in for 6 months or 9 months or even 18 months. That's not what we're about.
Yeah, and an interim would have that particular focus, wouldn't they? Would have, as you say, a project, an issue that needs solving, and when it's solved, the interim's done his job.
It is. It's a beginning, it's a middle, and an end, and then they move on. Whereas we prefer to stay for the longer haul. We're more in a partnership with the company.
Yeah, I've got 2 clients I've been with for 3 years. So it is a question of getting to know them, helping them, and helping them more efficiently as time goes by. But you're available for a project or a problem. You're available to help.
Yeah. Now, that brings me to another thought that I had about someone who is, whether it's part-time or interim, they're not actually employed by the organisation, which is to do with dynamics, fitting in with the company. When you're employed, you have your 100 days honeymoon, in theory, and you've joined the team, and you're on the books, and you're one of us. Are you ever one of us, and do you have to hit the streets running and get under the skin of these things quickly if you're just a part-timer?
Well, the companies I've been with for 3 years, I do feel like I'm one of them.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
after 3 years you will be, yeah.
Yeah, you do spend time getting to know like your key contacts, be it the bookkeeper or the accounting staff, and also the key players in the company. You have to get to know what makes them work, and you become almost like a mentor and coach for the finance people who are there. It's a question of getting along with them, helping them, looking to improve their performance.
Yeah. So you never make them look silly?
Oh, absolutely not. Again, Mike, I think the other key thing you need to remember that one of the reasons why FD4 is so successful is that we only recruit people who are quality business people, who've been around, have got finely honed management skills. They understand how to make people look good. They understand how to get the best out of people, as well as being, obviously, good finance directors.
Yeah.
But the key question that I want to ask now is, so why did you pick Sultans of Swing?
Just an old song from my youth.
I was going to say, well, with Heroes, David Bowie, Sultans of String by Dire Straits.
Sultans of Swing, string.
Sultans of Swing. You really are showing your age.
I'm just showing my age, yeah.
Let's in case anybody doesn't know it, let's educate some people.
So I just want to move back, if I may, after Sultans of Swing there, to this point about dynamics, because I don't normally, maybe I'm not the only one, but don't really think of numbers people as people. And yet you've just said it's actually key to working well for a company, getting on with the people.
Well, it's key in business. If you want to achieve results, you've got to get along with people. Even if you're politely saying no or you're challenging something, to get the best result, you've got to get along with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And remember, Mike, again, I just don't want to overstress the experience that we bring to the party, but we've all led organisations. We've all had many people working for us. And as you know, as you move through, you actually have to get results through people, not just doing the results yourself.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. You're going to have to work through people, and I wonder whether that was even more acute, given that you're not actually part of the company. You're a paid... but do people know that? Do other people, other than the sort of person who's paying you, do they actually know that you're there part-time and you're employed on your own right?
The bookkeeper probably know exactly how much you're paid.
How much, and that you're paid not as an employee as well.
Yeah.
But is it quite common that the rest of the organisation know they don't have a finance director of their own? They've recruited one on a part-time basis from FD4. Would people know that? Does it matter if they know that?
It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
Again, one of the key things we do is we explain why we're there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. When you have a common goal that you want the company to be more successful and you want the people inside the company to be more successful, it brings everybody together.
Yeah.
And that's one of those easy ways of just introducing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that I think is of concern to some people is how much time they're going to need to engage you for. Part-time could be 4 days a week. It could be 4 hours a week. Is there a generality? Is there an ease in that somebody sort of needs to dip their toe in the water?
No, again, one of the beauties is that you can very much get what you pay for. And that one of the things which we do is we'll sit down with the client and we'll agree what is the best way of getting the maximum return on our time. And again, to come back to the old point, the difference between interim and part-time is if we think we can make a big difference just working 1 or 2 days a month, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
And you literally, sounds a bit crazy in a way to have people as senior as us working almost as a temp, but in a way it's that concept, but we've moved the bar, we've moved it up to say, well, in principle, there's no reason why you shouldn't use us literally on that part-time basis.
Yeah. And when you're not there, you're presumably working for someone else, probably on a slightly different business. In other words, you're bringing, and then when you return, you're bringing that external experience. You've got a breadth of vision that you maybe lose when you become permanently employed by one company.
That's a very good point. I mean, we do actually bring opportunities as well, because we see things or can make connections between companies.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, after the news, it's the good old Q&A. So please do email your questions to studio@Marlow FM or call us on 01628 488 975. But right now, it's the news. Okay, you're listening to BizBuzz. I'm Mark Harris. I'm here with my co-presenter Mike Duckett, and we have David Cardno and Neil Dockar of FD4, who are being really good and staying on for the last half hour of the show, which is the Q&A. We've got a couple of emails come in with some questions, but before we do, there's two things I want to mention. One is an email we've had from Katie Hill talking about a new networking group in Marlow, which kicks off. In fact, I believe it's already had one session, and the next one is next Thursday. What makes this a little bit different is it's a 6 p.m. networking group, so it's after work, a bit of a drink. I believe cake is very involved, which certainly appeals to me, maybe not to the more fit people in the room. If you're interested in details, email studio@marlowfm.co.uk, or you can email direct to Katie on katie.hill@morecrofts.com. And the other thing to tell you about is Marlow FM. You've got 8 days left to vote for the Marlow FM Awards. There, you can do that on the Marlow FM website. Please go there. Please vote. You can vote for the pub or restaurant of the year, the best cup of tea. There are 3 candidates for that: Burgers Cafe in the Park or Fago's Cafe. I know who I voted for, but I shouldn't say on live. And the restaurant of the year, the Assembly Rooms Royal Oak Vanilla Pod. There's I think about 6 or 7 different categories, so please do go online and vote for your favourites. Only got 8 days left before the cut-off. So let's move to an email that's come in from someone who is looking to sell their business, so they don't really want me to say who they are. It's difficult to hide it on an email, but I'm not going to say it out loud. And they've had enough. They are looking for an exit. The company, they say, is reasonably profitable. They believe it to be saleable. So what advice would you give someone as to how do they start going about that?
Somebody who's thought about retiring ahead of time.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well,
type of person.
Is that like how you say that when it's coming in? It's all about planning it and getting ready for it. I mean, it probably does take about 3, 4, 5 years to really get a company prepared for exit, so it's going to be something that's going to attract other potential buyers. But basically, I mean, it comes down to basic. You have to have a number of things in place. One would be you have to have a really concise business plan that clearly explains why it is you win in the market and why it is you'll continue to win in the market. That will make you attractive. You have to have your organisation ready so that if you decide to step away, the wheels won't come off. That's really important. And there's lots of steps you can take if you plan it carefully beforehand, like legal steps to put contracts in place with key suppliers, key customers, key employees, so that again it gives the buyer much more certainty when they're about to make the investment. So these are the kind of things that you can set up. Interesting, when you do a business plan, you'll often in that process you'll find new things which will actually add value to your business that you wouldn't have thought about going into the actual process of doing a business plan. So a business plan itself can add a lot of value.
I think one of the things that many owners don't understand, because by definition many of them are selling for the first time, is what the rigours of this thing called due diligence really mean. And one of the problems is that when your books are just there for you to go through, then anything which isn't quite right you're sort of aware of, and you're okay, and you know which stones you can look under and which are okay. When an outsider comes in and then brings in the lawyers, brings in their professional accountants, and really starts to go through, if you have not done the pre-work, and one of the things that FD4 do is we help people do that pre-work, then you can lead yourself open to some horrible negotiating positions, and the amount of value you can have negotiated away from you through not doing some proper pre-work, not having done the business plan, as David said, is enormous. And I say the due diligence process is not something to underestimate. How much value can be gained or lost by some professional planning.
I've got a friend of mine was is FD for a large insurance company in the city, and his sole job, he's head of acquisition, so he's always going off to do due diligence. And that's his life. He spends doing due diligence. And I wouldn't like to be sitting at the other side of the table with any holes in my budget, because he'll find them.
No, he will, and it can be a very unpleasant experience. But again, it's like most of these things, as David said, one of the things we do is we focus on the end point, we focus on the future. And that, again, is typically your traditional accountant has made sure the books are okay, but it's managing that end process, and that's where the higher value comes from.
Absolutely.
The other really important thing is tax planning, which also takes a little while to line up. So, I mean, I think obviously it's fair in society that the tax man gets some money when you make an exit, but you want to pay him, I suppose, like an optimal amount, if I put it that way. So, I mean, that will take probably like 2 or 3 years to completely line that up, and that's really important to line that up.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that, if I may, but first we're going to play the last of the tracks that you guys chose, which is one by you two. Any particular reason, or is this just one that you like?
Just one I really like.
I have to say, I do agree with you. Let's have some more chat after this. Okay, a little bit of U2 singing One, which we were all singing along to here. I hope you were at home. We were talking about tax planning. That's what you mentioned just before the record, and I went, and we had a little conversation off air that we're now going to repeat on air. Maybe the same, maybe different, who can tell? Because I said, okay, so at one level there is tax planning. The next level up from that would be avoiding tax, which has been put forward as being morally questionable, and the next level up from that is evading tax, which we all know is illegal.
Evading bad, avoiding maybe okay.
Yeah. So where do you fit with that? You're obviously okay with tax planning because you're advocating that happening. How is the line drawn?
Well, tax evasion is breaking the law, clear and simple. I mean, that's the easy.
So it's a legal issue.
It's illegal.
It's a legal issue. That's what.
Just cannot go there. You know, and directors of companies could be in big trouble for following a path like that. So basically, tax evasion is completely like red light. That should never happen, and I would not want to be involved in something like that.
Well, in fact, we can be stronger than that, David. If ever we were asked to be associated with tax evasion, we would end the assignment straight away.
Right.
Agreed.
Just picking up very briefly on, because you mentioned it's a legal position, etc. What's your legal position as a finance director part-time for a company? I understand you have a legal responsibility as a director of a board. What's your legal responsibility?
Well, I'm not legally a director of any of the companies that I help.
Right.
Okay. Under corporate law, I could be seen maybe to be a shadow director, so I could be caught under that bit of law.
Oh, right.
So yeah, you've got to be careful of a director's duties.
Right, and the key thing is that whether it's a legal responsibility or just how we do business for the best of the company.
The ethics of your company.
Exactly, and as long as you're acting in the best interests of the shareholders, then all of the natural laws will